Hello again. In this video, we're going to be taking a brief look at who are the sons of God in the book of Job. And I'm going to talk about why I believe that this is referring to angels and not people. Well, first, let's read the scriptures where this appears. It's in Job 1, 6-8. It says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. The Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, and one that feareth God and escheweth evil? And then again in chapter 2 of Job, it reads, Again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it." So let's talk about what does it mean to present something before the Lord. And when this word, so present, you'll see that word present or present. It's used like over 100 times in the Bible, but used when you see this. So when you type in a search and you type in present, you'll get the noun usage, you'll get the adjective usage, like a present, like a gift. You'll get present, like, being there versus being absent, being present. And then this use as a verb to present oneself. When it's used in this manner, it's used to introduce into the presence of something or to offer for reception. So when they're presenting themselves before the Lord, that's what it's talking about. And it's used a number of times in this manner in the Bible, and you can look that up. I'll mention a couple references here later. So where is this when they're presenting themselves before the Lord? I believe it's somewhere in the presence of God, kind of in the spiritual realm. Now, some people say that this is in heaven, and the idea of this video is not to get into an argument about whether the devil can get into heaven, or if he can, where is he allowed to go in heaven, okay? The point is that I don't think he is on the earth during the conversation. He's somewhere in the presence of God in the spiritual realm, is my belief. And why is that? Well, Satan says that he came from going to and fro in the earth and walking up and down in it. Now, to me, this doesn't sound very informative if you're actually still on the earth. It sounds like you were on the earth and now you're not. And some people might say, well, he's just kind of saying he was going around. He's still on the earth, but he's just kind of going around in different places in the earth. I take in the literal sense. I think the Bible is giving us an answer from Satan that gives us a little bit more information to think about, rather than just to kind of dismiss it as, kind of a manner of speech, so to speak. And moreover, we have scripture in the same book that show the sons of God are a reference to angels. If you look in Job 38, verses 4-7, it says, Job, when the Lord is questioning Job, it says, Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Who hath stretched a line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Now, the most straightforward understanding as you read this would be there's some creation going on here of the foundations of the world. The morning stars, which stars or other places refer to, angels in the Bible, and the sons of God. So there are no people in existence at this time when the foundations of the earth being laid. So the sons of God here, clearly they are spiritual beings, okay? I know I've heard people try to explain this away, and some kind of twisted way. But, I always try to tell people when you're reading the scripture, most often the normal understanding of what you're reading is the correct understanding. If you have to go into like a half-hour sermon to explain this away, you're probably going in the wrong direction. Okay, this is pretty clear that these are talking about angels, and when Satan is presenting himself with the sons of God, it's pretty clear to me that they are other spiritual beings that he's doing that with. Now, I've heard a question recently where someone asked, why did they present themselves before God? Why would they do this? Can anyone explain why they're doing this? Okay, just for someone who's trying to understand the Bible and read it, develop a doctrine, questions like these they're really irrelevant concerning who the sons of God are. These are questions, they're not something that you have to answer for the sons of God being angels in Job to be a valid doctrine. This is stuff that's kind of thrown out, it's ancillary to what you're trying to figure out. To kind of, people put these questions out there, like, if you can't answer these, well then, your idea is no good. And that's just, again, bad logic. But just to entertain the questions, I think we can infer that they were commanded to be there by God for some reason, most likely to observe God's questions to Satan about Job. Prior to the first presentation of the angels and Satan, we are introduced to Job in the first 5 verses. So we get some context about the conversation that God and the devil have about Job. I believe that's why you're first introduced to Job and told about who he is, so that you don't want. It would make no sense to start the book out with the conversation between God and Satan about Job, because who's Job? I don't know who Job is. Okay, so you get the context about Job, and then you get the conversation. So every time that someone presents in the Bible, every time someone in the Bible presents themselves before the Lord, they're told by the Lord to do that. So nobody just kind of saunters into the presence of the Lord to present themselves. Every time you see someone presenting themselves before the Lord, it's most often priests or the Levites, based on the instructions God gave them about cleansing or sacrifices or things of that nature. You can read Exodus 34 when Moses is told to present himself before the Lord up on the mount. Then you've got Leviticus 14, Leviticus 16, 27, Numbers 3, and Deuteronomy 31, just for example. So why did they present themselves? Because God told them to. We can get that, we gather that from other scriptures where God always tells individuals to make themselves ready before him. So I think a good explanation is, well, they were told to present themselves before the Lord, so they did. And wise, I think it's a good reason, is that for whatever reason it might be, he wanted the sons of God to be present for the conversation, the questions he has to Satan about Job. Now, the one other thing I've heard said recently is that whenever someone presented themselves before the Lord, it was at the tabernacle. Okay, well, it's kind of not really a good reasoning, because Job is before tabernacle is created by the Hebrews. So at this time, there is no tabernacle. So it's really it's not really a good point, because there's no tabernacle. But secondly, if we want to use this reasoning, then it makes complete sense that the presentation of Satan and the sons of God took place in heaven, because that's the only tabernacle that existed at the time. So if you want to make the argument that people always presented themselves at the tabernacle, which they didn't always, because Moses was told to present themselves up on the mount before there was a tabernacle. But if you want to use that argument, then it makes perfect sense that this was in heaven before the tabernacle in heaven. Thanks. We'll see you in the next video.